these stories, and I published a book, and I'm very, very proud of it. But I love sitting at a table hearing everybody's stories. I just, they're amazing. They're just absolutely amazing. It motivates me.
One, two, three, four.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 42 of the On the Runs podcast. We are coming to you virtual tonight. This time I am in my downstairs living room podcast studio, and Erika, you are in that awesome, I think that is going to become your full-time virtual studio there. Where are you?
I'm in the spare bedroom as per usual, but hey, now it is my recording studio. I like that.
What do you got behind you there? Some UFOs? Are those the UFOs? UFOs?
Out of all things in this room, you pick out the UFOs. Yeah, I wound up buying those during their sale that they just had. So it's a brand new pair of the like sneakers.
I saw that. Is the sale still going on? Because I have it in my email, and you know what? They'll have another one.
Yeah, they'll have another one if it's still going. I'm not sure if it's still going. It's been going on for like a week and maybe a week and a half, so it's iffy if they're still doing it, but worth checking out.
Now, behind you, is that a bookshelf?
You know what? I just built that today, actually. It's got a bunch of little like drawers in it. So I've been stocking it with like my running gear. I have a whole drawer full of like heat patches for your body and like hand warmers. And then I have like headlamps and gloves, and I got all kinds of running gear in there now. So I'm going to maybe put my socks in there too. There's a lot of space.
Well, if that becomes your new full-time virtual studio, you're going to have to like create a backdrop with some shelves and put some books up there, some posters, some medals, some big achievements. And I think you just got a new item that you could add to that.
Yes, I did. And we're actually going to hear from him today. But this is his new book that I spent all weekend reading. And I can't wait to give you guys a review.
So our guest today is Patrick Leber. And Patrick self-published his own book filled with over 40 years worth of running stories. And he's like, I think one of our previous guests, Angela, said, hey, Patrick, you need to go on this podcast because they love stories. And it turned out to be a perfect fit. He's another person who reached out to us about coming on the pod.
I'm so glad he did. He shared with us, well, you guys will hear it soon, but he shared with us some of his stories and the whole process it took to write and publish that book.
So let's take care of a few things real quick before we get to Patrick's interview. One, this Thursday night, did we decide on a time? What was the time we decided? 8 p.m.
8:30. 8:30.
Really? It's 8:30?
Denise said 8:30.
Oh, okay. This Thursday night at 8:30 p.m., we will be doing our first Instagram Live with an original friend of the pod. We'll let you guys find out when we go live. But we have a friend of the pod coming on who just did, I'll give you guys a hint right here, the Dopey Challenge. We're going to try to do these once a month, and this will be our first attempt. So bear with us, and then it will eventually go on our RSS feed. So if you missed the Instagram Live, don't worry. You will still get a chance to listen to it the following week. And I'm excited for that. How about you? Are you excited to be on camera?
I will make sure I put in a little bit of effort.
I'm going to make sure to touch up my hair that day and make sure I got a good makeup day there. So.
Oh yeah, I'll make my gray streak pop. That's a good idea, right?
Rogue. You'll have your rogue going on.
Yes.
The one other item I want to tell you guys for this episode, pay attention. We are going to have our first contest giveaway. Patrick is going to give someone, one of our lucky listeners, a free copy of his book. Here's how you're going to get a chance to win. On Thursday, we're going to give everyone about 24 to 48 hours to listen to this episode. On Thursday, on our Instagram story, you will see a question or a poll asking, how many miles did Patrick run during his 40-something years of stories?
Trust me, guys, you want to get your hands on this book.
Because you just finished it. We're recording late because you're like, hold on, I got 20 pages to go.
I had to finish it. I had to.
Well, let's talk about it after. We will let everyone hear from Patrick first.
All right, friends, without further ado, here's Patrick Leber.
Our next guest on the pod came to us from a fellow friend of the pod, the wonderful Angela Pohl. And after nearly 40 years of running, he decided to collect all his running stories, the amusing ones, the engaging ones, and even the embarrassing ones. And he wrote a self-published book called Why Run When You Can Drive and Smoke at the Same Time. It is our pleasure to welcome Patrick Leber to the On the Runs podcast. Patrick, what's going on, my man?
Oh, wow. This is great. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you having me.
We're so happy to have you. Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm very humbled that I'm on your show. So thank you very much.
So you're a friend of Angela's. How do you know Angela?
Yeah, Angela and I are members of our running club here in Northeast Ohio. Our running club is actually named Northeast Running Club, or NERC for short. And I met Angela through the club here. And she has, she's a rock star to the club and to me because of her story and her conversations that she had with you guys, right, during Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So she is, she's got wonderful stories about that. She's got a wonderful organization that she started, co-founded, I think, called Good Running.
That's right.
I don't know how much time you guys spent on that before, but it's a wonderful fundraising event we do every month. And they come up with a worthy group that everybody in the month that wants to get points for all their runs and their workouts. And we donate money to a worthy cause, and we have a different group every month. So I just think she's wonderful because of that group. Her and the staff, her and the group that started that and keep that going. So I just have a lot of fun with that. I really enjoy donating to many different causes, and that's exactly what Good Running does.
I remember interviewing her and it going so long.
We had to cut it into 2 parts, yeah.
And it could have been 3 parts. We could have kept going. I think she will be a returning friend of the pod one day.
That's great.
I really do. She was awesome. That was part of our Breast Cancer Awareness Month. She was our last feature of the month, and she won't be the last, though. She was amazing. I still see her every day on Instagram commenting on Jackie's post, on Jay's post, and everything. She's such a supportive, figure in the running world for all the other women out there battling. So we love Angela. She's a big-time friend of the pod. Really glad to hear that you are up there with her. So let's get started with that. You are from Ohio?
I am a Buckeye born and raised. Haven't lived here my whole life, but I was born here and went to college at Bowling Green State University on the western side of our state. And it's about when I started running, actually. They had a club there called the Century Club. And what you did was you collected points for running miles. And once you hit 100 miles, you got a T-shirt and you were part of the Century Club. So it's kind of funny to think back after 43 years of only having a 100-mile goal to earn a T-shirt. So yeah, it started then, and it hasn't let up ever since the fall of 1980. No, actually, yeah, I've been doing this a long time. So no, it was the fall of 1980 that I started running. Prior to that, I was on the junior high track team. I was more of a sprinter using my quick twitch muscles, and our junior highs joined together to get to the high school level, and I convinced myself I wouldn't be quick enough. Shame on me. I probably would have done pretty good, but I remember the days when I dreaded even running a mile. I absolutely dreaded it. I happened to be quick, but I didn't find the endurance level. I didn't find it enduring, right? Endearing.
Yeah.
Right. So I never wanted to run longer than a mile, and high school I stopped running. And when I got to college, the Century Club thing kicked me into gear. It was a spark, if you will, and then it started. I started racing in 1980 and have been racing ever since. Although I think I'll talk quite a few times here about not really being race centric. I truly believe in some of the things I've done over 40 plus years of running that have allowed me to continue to run. For instance, I truly believe in running every other day.
Hmm.
It's very rare that I'll run back-to-back days. Sometimes I'll do it on the weekends, but I have a pretty regular schedule now. So yeah, I went to college in Bowling Green. My first job took us out to Fort Wayne, Indiana, where a lot of the running stories were collected back in the 80s. And then we moved out to Virginia, and we were lucky enough to live in the city of Williamsburg, Virginia.
So who's we?
Yes, my wonderful family. So my wonderful wife, Kathy, and I have been together since we were 15.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So yeah, actually, that was 10th grade. I actually took Kathy to a dance in 9th grade. And then I was still a little jock, and I still was active with sports. And so I kind of let that go. And then 10th grade, her friend came to me and said, hey, she still wants to date you. And I thought, okay. And so we have been together since. We went to college together. We got married right after college. You know, it was all planned, and lived in Indiana for 6 years. And then my career took us to Virginia, where we lived for 4 years. And that's when we started having our children. So the additional part of the we is Kathy and I have two wonderful children who are now 31. That's Haley, our daughter, and our 29-year-old son, Jake. We had them in Virginia, and then we wanted them to know their family. When you grow up with your high school sweetheart and you're from the same area, it's really important. It was important to both of us that they got to know the family. And so back in 94, we moved home. Found a company that moved me home, and we have been here ever since. And the kids grew up in the Northeast Ohio area. So they're Buckeyes also. So that's the the four of us. Two kids are happily independent now, and dad can run all these miles now. I'm actually running more miles than ever because I slowed down quite a bit during the years when the family was around. Eric can relate.
I really do relate right now.
It happens, yeah.
Yeah. Eric and I used to go on long runs all the time, and now it's like, hey, when's the last time we ran together?
Honestly, I don't think I've run with you in months. It's been a long time.
It was that hot, sweaty day in August, and we sent Bex a message, and we checked the Beeman score, and it was up there.
Wow.
What was it on day one that got you running?
I think it's the rush of the feeling. It really is. You know, I mean, when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was pretty competitive. I was fortunate enough to be pretty quick. But then, like I mentioned, the kids were born, and all of a sudden I realized I wanted to run for the health of it. The competition part of it really went out the window for the most part while the kids were growing up. But that spark that you're referring to probably was just the rush of the moment. I loved being outside. I loved meeting people and socializing with people and listening to their stories, and we're going to talk about that here with the book. But I think runners are wonderful storytellers, right? We all have crazy stories.
They're either great storytellers or they're really good listeners.
Okay. So just the stories I was learning about and the different situations of people and what it's funny. You're asking me what sparked me, but what sparks me is listening to other people's motivation for why they run.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. I find that interesting. I really do about people. So that's what it was.
It is pretty cool because everybody has a different reason for running. It could be a health thing. It could be a mental escape, just trying to find clarity. It could be anything. So I find that fascinating too.
So talk me in those first few years. You never stopped running. You're still running today.
Yep.
Was there any setbacks? Were there any things that, like, I know you're not kids, but anything else that got in the way that slowed you down? And what did you do to keep rolling?
Sure. Okay. Well, there was the inevitable surgery or whatever that I had to go through. But the nice thing about that, and I'll be honest with you, there probably hasn't been more than 5 times, I'm putting it on one hand, that an injury or surgery has slowed me down. It really has. And guys, I don't know what it is. There's something self-motivating about running that I just keep going. And then as I got older and started slowing down, I motivated myself by telling myself, you know what, you're beyond your 20s, you're beyond your peak. Then you got into your 30s and a little bit slower, but still up there.
Mhm.
But you know what? Keep running. See how long you could do this, you know? And then I came up with just some I don't know if they're wives' tales or things I just thought of myself to say, in order to keep this going, what are you going to do? How long can you run for the rest of your life and keep this going? And so a couple of the things I did was I mentioned I tend to run every other day. So I'll run Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. And I might do that or I've been doing that for at least 20 years,
Wow.
almost religiously. And
That's
I'll
great.
miss a day. I'll miss a day. I'll get sick and miss a day, but I don't feel bad about it because I'm motivated to keep it going and come back quickly. I really do. I do a lot of running on the track. I do speed work during the summertime, getting ready for a half marathon, but I will run on the track a lot. So a lot of people are bored by that. I keep going by telling myself, this is why you can keep going, because you're running on a track, you're running on a spongier surface. And so a lot of people would look at the number of times I run on a track and yawn. So I would say running every other day, running on the track, and just taking care of myself. Kathy is a wonderful cook. God bless her. I mean, we eat well. She's very conscientious for what I eat in order to be able to, have energy. And then I put in the right electrolytes and water, and I just take care of my body. And all of the three of those things really have helped me, I think, go the distance.
Definitely.
What else do you do on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays then? Do you do any other cross training, or are you just relax day?
No, I actually stay active all the time. So a great question. So I recently sold my soul to Apple. And
no, we're Android people.
I know.
We won't hold it against you. Don't worry.
Sorry. So on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, for instance, right now, I'm in the middle of strength workouts every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And I'm in my 11th week. So I consider this the off season. I used to joke with people. I called it hibernation because I wasn't running, but I was really running on the treadmill. Okay. So that's what I would do during the winter time or on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I might walk. My wife, Kathy, is an avid walker. So I'll get my steps in, or I'll burn my calories according to the Apple plan. So that I stay very active. Trust me. Yeah. That's what I do in my off days.
That's great. I totally, right now, especially being in New Hampshire, it just snowed today too.
Yes,
I
finally.
could go for some real hibernation. It's just cold, and my motivation tanks when it's cold and dreary out. So it does take a while to boost myself up and get the motivation to do something on days like this. But it's good that you've been keeping at it and staying active.
Yeah, that's it. That's the key. In fact, in the book, I talk a lot about keep moving. That really is the goal. I use the term or the hashtag keep moving a lot. And even in the book, I give it silly examples. So, for example, I will, to keep moving, I will always pull the car in the garage and walk down to the mailbox to get my mail.
Just that little bit will get you going.
And that's what this is. Life is about those little things.
Parking in the faraway parking spots from the store.
Exactly. Yep.
I do that just because I don't want my truck to get dinged.
Right. That's an added benefit, but I also do it just because I can get my steps in. Right. I'll purposefully watch TV, and I'll put the remote over by the TV and go sit on the chair or the couch to make me have to get up to go get the remote in order to do something.
See, that's hardcore. That is hardcore.
I like everything you're saying, but that's where I draw the line.
Right.
I draw the line on the remote controller. Because when I'm on that couch now, I'm comfy. Look at me right here. Look how comfy I am.
He's on my couch.
Yeah, you guys are.
Yeah.
You guys are. That looks great. But those are those little things. And we each have them. And if you think really hard and reflect, you can probably come up with a couple of them yourself, but I look for those little nuances, if you will, to keep moving.
Very good. Very good. So why don't we jump into your running career? I know we're going to get into the book, and some of this stuff might be in the book, but tell us about some of like the big running moments you've had in your life, like some of your favorite races that you've done. I'm actually curious to know what's your favorite race distance? Like you've talked about you hated running the mile when you were younger, but you were just training for a half marathon. So have you done all the distances, or do you have a favorite?
Yeah, sure. So when I was younger, I started off and got into marathons. At first you ramped up, right? From 5K to 10K and then
the natural,
to half
right?
marathons.
The progression.
and then to marathons. But fun fact, after running for 43 years, I've only run 3 marathons, guys.
Okay.
Oh,
wow. Even back in my 20s, I loved the half marathon. I really did. So that's my favorite distance still to this date. And I love supporting local races. So it's not so much about the distance, whether it's a 5K, 5 mile or a 10K.
Yep.
I love supporting funds. I love supporting fundraising, if you will. So those are the types of races that still attract me regardless of the distance. So my favorite is the half marathon. And I'm going to try and recruit Erika here to my favorite half marathon in Ohio because it's a great marathon course also. So I remember Angela talking to you about what goes on in Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati. Okay. Cleveland Marathon, which is closest to our house here, is nice. The Flying Pig Marathon down in Cincinnati is wonderful. Our son Jake lives on the course. So although I don't run it because those hills will kick me in the ass, I am out there and I'm your biggest cheerleader at the 10.5 mile mark because he lives on the course.
Very cool.
So if you decide to do the Flying Pig Marathon, I'll be there anyways. And if you decide to do Cleveland, I'll be there anyways because I love to go out on the course and cheer the runners.
I think you got to do Flying Pig.
That one is honestly up there.
It's just the name.
So many good
the name Flying Pig. Is there a pig on the medal with wings or something?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Sold. I'm sold.
And
okay.
all their gear, all their swag is Flying Pig. All their hashtags are funny Flying Pig references.
See, how fun is that?
So
that one's Cincinnati.
Really cool. What's that?
It's in Cincinnati.
In Cincinnati.
Breaking news: Erika will be running the Flying Pig Marathon in Cincinnati in the next 3 years.
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet. Yeah.
Now, if you want a Boston qualifier, if you want a BQ, there is the Columbus Marathon, which I love. I run the half marathon, but it's sponsored by Nationwide Hospital. I remember Angela mentioning this to you too. And so it's really meaningful because they put a patient from the Children's Hospital at every mile. And that patient usually has,
just ball my eyes out the whole time.
Well, it's fun because you don't run, in my case, you don't run 13.1. You run zigzag in a 13.1 course because I get such a rush of running over to the kids and they hold out a stick with a big sponge hand and you can give the kids each a high five at every single mile. And before you get to the mile, they tell you who's coming up. So you'll know, a couple hundred feet before you get there that you're meeting the person with their name. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So let's just say the name is Eric and Eric is going to be there. So when you run by, you could say, "Hi, Eric, how you doing?"
Oh.
And it is so cool. It is so cool. The first year I ran it, I think I ran 13.6 miles. Because you're just zigzag.
For very good reason, though. I would absolutely do that.
That marathon sounds amazing.
Yeah, it really is. And it runs through the campus of Ohio State. The first half doesn't, but then if you do the full marathon, you actually go through the campus area in downtown Columbus. They go through a bunch of villages. Erika, I highly recommend the Columbus Marathon. I really do.
Do I just have to go to Ohio a few times and run them all?
Gotta do both.
I think I can make that happen.
You should. The Cincinnati, it depends on your training, right? Cincinnati and Cleveland are spring races, and Columbus is the fall race in October.
There you go.
It's an easy drive. It's not even that far. We can do it.
Road
We
trip.
do one year, one the other year. I want to hang out at his kid's house in Cincinnati. I think that will be fun. We'll play some loud. We'll play the Spotify playlist and everything. We'll have a cool little station there. We'll have our banner up. That will be fun. So flying pig. But then I want to do Columbus with you.
Deal.
So that's what I want. I want to do the Columbus one because that would be a cool experience.
It's great. You'll love it. You'll feel like $1 million when you're running it, and because you're running it, and just a wonderful feeling, a wonderful day. And even if you want to run a PR, you can give high fives to some of the kids, and maybe not all of them because of your trajectory, right? But
I couldn't give some to some kids and ignore other ones. No way. I'd have to give them to everybody.
I hope they don't need any PT on their shoulder or their arm after giving thousands of high fives.
Yeah. So it's cool. It really is cool. So my favorite's a half marathon. I loved it in my 20s. I ran my fastest marathon, my first marathon. It's probably not true of most marathoners, but I just did awesome. My first one, my second one, I hit the wall at about 20. And then in my third one, I hit the wall at 18. And I said, what are you doing?
Oh,
what are you doing? And nowadays, there's so much more help and guidance because, we're going to talk today about the book, and you almost have to have a retro mind when you go into the book because the technology wasn't there. Right? Chip racing didn't exist. Everybody wanted to be at the front of the race so that you got an accurate time because when the gun went off, it just was a gun start.
That's right.
There was no carbon fiber plates in your shoes. There was no GPS in your watch. You just had a Timex watch and you just timed yourself,
Going back to basics, right?
Oh yeah.
Good stuff.
And
I would call it Mike Beeman style.
Yes.
Because he never got a Garmin until COVID because then he had to.
Oh, he had to submit his Boston time, right? His virtual Boston.
Submit his virtual races. So he ran off of like a Timex or something before that too.
But hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
Yeah. He was a great guest, by the way. Mike, if you're listening in, man, I love that show. Oh, I love that show. Because a lot of the stories I'll have will be similar to Mike's. He'll be able to relate. The old shoes, the odd situations that you find yourself in when running and stuff. So I love the retro stories that he told on that show.
Well, let's not hesitate any longer. Let's get into the book. So you self-published a book called Why Run When. Try saying that 3 times fast. Why run when? Why won't I can't.
It's hard.
Yeah. Why run when you can drive and smoke at the same time?
Now, I need to know about how you came up with that title. It is fantastic. What was going through your head when you came up with that?
So I can't give myself any of the credit. I was at work one day, and a coworker of mine walked up. He was a smoker, and he said to me, sarcastically, tongue-in-cheek though, why do you run when you can drive and smoke a cigarette at the same time? And I remember telling him, I said, I don't know how, but someday I'm going to use that. That is hilarious. I just love that phrase, and I've thought about it for years. And we'll get into some of the history of writing the book here, but I just knew someday I would use it. I had no idea I would use it as a book title. It was the perfect thing to say because that's my sense of humor. I love it when people criticize runners, because it's like, what are you doing to yourself? Well, what are you doing to yourself?
Right.
Smoking.
Right.
or whatever cause we want to pick on. I don't know what to call it, but
you run by some smoker and he's like, that's bad for your knees.
Right. Exactly. So, and then once it's funny because now we'll talk a little bit about the book, but when I decided to do this, and I'll talk about my motivation for the book, I went on Amazon and I said, I want to put a collection of stories together, and they're going to be funny stories. They're going to be amusing stories. They're not going to be, this is not a self-help book. We have a lot of those in the running world, and they're great. They are wonderful. But I went on Amazon and I looked at 200 book titles. I just put in the word running in the filter, and I looked at 200 book titles. And would you believe that I found 6 funny titles?
That's it.
And I thought that was all I found. So I thought I was onto something by using the titles I was using, because there are so many self-help books, like I said, on running, that they all have, some of them are cute titles and some of them are practical titles, but there's very few very funny book titles about running. And so that's what motivated me to call the book that. I remembered my friend saying that. I told him I'd use it someday. And then all of a sudden the whole putting together, self-publishing a book came together, and I knew right away what the title would be. I ran it by a few people, like market tested it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody but one person said they didn't like, or one person said they didn't like it. And I asked them why, and they said, well, it's very long. It's almost too long. And I said, well, let's do that. What if I do this? I have a title and a subtitle. So
Right.
Why Run When You Can Drive is a nice, simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Smoke at the Same Time is kind of the subtitle. So, but yeah, otherwise, my little market survey with maybe 50 people loved it. They absolutely loved the title. So
Well,
that's the history.
I'm sold too. That's for sure.
And not to call Erica out, but I'm going to call her out.
Uh-oh.
She didn't know that was the name of the book until about 5 minutes before I called you. She just
I knew about the why, run, when.
that's what she thought it was. And I'm like, well, because why run when is all in big font. And then in
Right.
little font underneath it, she just probably thought it said like by, Patrick Leber illustrations.
Forward by.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It says when you can smoke and I was going to say smoke and drink at the when you can smoke and drive at the same time.
That is dangerous. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's right. You've got it right. And so the why run when part, and again, it took a while to roll off my tongue, guys.
Mhm.
It's a tongue twister. But why run when is kind of the brand, if you will.
Yes.
And so I've used it as a hashtag. I've used it. What I like to post on Instagram is that I'll be around town and I'll see something awkward, something interesting, and I'll put why run when you can, and I'll caption it with whatever that picture made me think of.
Awesome.
So-
It's kind of like the other running podcast, Will Run For.
Oh, like insert
Oh.
Insert
the rest of your
right.
thing here?
And you can do it for your book, Why Run When.
Yes,
Right. Yes.
Very nice. Very nice.
you got it. I didn't know that other podcast existed. That's great. Yeah, you're right. It's along the same lines.
Yeah, there's another running podcast out there. It's called Will Run For. It's the Will Run For family. There's 4 hosts. They're awesome. So get this. Erica met Aaron
Mhm.
at the Loop-de-Loopter in New Jersey.
Yep. It
Back-
was an ultra race that my
Right.
friend was running, and I was her pacer. And we just found somebody on the course, decided to start chatting, and she just happens to be one of the co-hosts of this podcast. So it's pretty fun.
Wow.
But then 6-7 months later, I'm at Disney World and I walked by Tom and I'm like, "Excuse me, sir?" And I drew a blank on his name. I go, "You have a running podcast?" And he goes, "Yes, I do." And I'm like, "I'm Eric from On the Runs." And he was like, "No way."
So he got to meet the other half. I got to meet part of the podcast too. It was a very nice coincidence.
Small world.
It is a small world. That's great. That's a great. See, we all have stories.
Mhm.
We all have unique stories. And
Your book is about 40 something years of your running stories. Some, I would say some happy ones, maybe some sad ones, some amusing ones, and maybe some ugly ones, some embarrassing stories. So not to give everything away, tell us some of the ones you like that you would like to share with our listeners.
sure, there's a couple of stories in the book where, again, because they're retro in nature, we didn't have instant messaging. We didn't have phones. We didn't have the ability to find out who you were running with at the time or in that situation. So I've got a couple of stories where I would love someday to find these people because these are interesting. So I'm going to tell you one of my most interesting ones was when I ran the Cleveland Marathon. I was running. This was in my 20s. We were moving pretty good. We were moving about 7 to 7:30 a mile, and there was a group of 4 gentlemen and 1 young lady. And we were moving together. We were doing a little bit of drafting together. And we got to about the 4-mile mark. And the young lady veered off the course. At the time, the Cleveland Marathon was through a neighborhood at that point, veered off the course. And she went to talk to a couple sitting in their chairs in this subdivision we were in, or in this housing area. And all I saw was the people shook their head no. And I'm just thinking, dear God, she needs a bathroom.
Oh,
right?
no.
It's the art of perception here. Dear God, she needs a bathroom. And she was quick enough that she got right back in line with us, and she was running with us. Nobody was saying anything because we were moving. We got to an intersection, and there was an officer there, and she veered off, and she went to talk to the officer, and the officer shook his head no. And I'm like, oh God, find a bathroom.
Right.
Help this young lady find a bathroom. She turned around and she was bawling. She was sobbing, and she was obviously out of breath, but it was she was very upset. She was very shaken by the fact that somebody couldn't give her a bathroom. They couldn't do it in the house. They wouldn't let her in that house, and the officer wouldn't take her off the course to go to the bathroom, whatever the story was. I don't think of her for the rest of the race, right? When you go through these long races, think of all those thoughts that go through your head, and then they're just gone. You never think of it again. I was with a group of people from Indiana. We had come into town, into Cleveland. And so that's when I was living in Indiana, and we drove back. I didn't even mention this lady, this young girl. I didn't mention her at all. It wasn't part of the stories that everybody shares in the car afterwards on the way home. So next night, my wife and I are at home, and the national news is on, the nightly news. Okay. And it was back in the day. I remember it was Peter Jennings on ABC. So he's not with us anymore, but he said in the last article, he said, coming up, we have an interesting story from the Cleveland Marathon yesterday. And your ears perked up, right? And you're like, oh my God, Kathy, come here. We got to watch this. There was a story about the Cleveland Marathon. Now, again, you didn't have phones. You didn't have social media. You just had things that happened. So Peter Jennings came on and said, there's an amazing story here in Cleveland because a lady signed up for the 10K, but inadvertently got onto the marathon course.
Uh-oh.
She veered off. There was 2 different start times, so she started in the wrong race.
Oh, no.
She got to the 4-mile mark, hearing and learning it was an out and back course, but she didn't feel that they turned around yet, which we hadn't because we weren't going to.
Uh-huh.
And she went to a couple sitting in a neighborhood and asked them if it was the marathon course. They said, we don't know. My perception was, does she need a bathroom? She went to an intersection for an officer and asked the officer if he could take her back to the start line because she was in the wrong race. She was starting to realize she was in the wrong race. He said, no, it was the marathon. And he said, I can't take you back. I can't leave my post.
Oh,
so
wow.
She said, now in the article, she said, I was upset, and somebody ran by me. By the way, it wasn't me, but somebody ran by me with the Nike logo, just do it. And she ran the marathon.
Wow.
She ran the marathon. She scared the hell out of her family. I remember that. Because she didn't come in the 10K course.
Right.
It was long done, right? Everybody was done, and they didn't have electronic. We didn't have chip timing, so you couldn't go to a website, and you didn't follow runners then. You just waited to see somebody. So she did that. It was on the national news. That's the young lady I was running with.
I can't
Me and
believe.
a couple guys.
Wow.
It was so cool. It was so, and it's funny, in my local running club, I told that story, and one of my buddies, Scott, he said, I remember that. So it's amazing that there's somebody around here that remembers it. But boy, think about that. That was probably 30 some years ago. And I'd love to find out who that is. because I was running with her, and I'd love to just say hello to her and say I was with you with that small group of gentlemen. So that's one of those stories. I just want to find that young lady someday.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way to do it. I even Googled.
I was going to say, like, we could maybe find 5 or something. Who knows?
Yeah, I Googled it. I tried, and you can go to the archives of ABC News, and it's interesting. There's nothing in there in all the filters. I tried to find it about running a race. They had races that they had news articles about, like the Boston Marathon and stuff like that, but you won't. I couldn't find anything on the Cleveland Marathon. I think it was 1989, if my memory serves me right. 1989. So
we're talking like ABC national news, not your local Cleveland channel.
That's big time. That's big time.
Peter Jennings. I remember that name. I remember his voice.
Yeah. Yep. So that was one of them. I had a similar situation. This is going to sound like a terrible situation, but trust me, in the end, it works out great.
Okay. I like the setup. I like it.
Yeah. So I didn't want to bring people down with this story. So one time I was running in my local area here. I was less than a mile into a summer run, had a tank top on, a singlet or shorts, and just a hot day. I was less than a mile in, like I said, and I was about to run across an apron of a driveway. If you know what that means, right? The apron that feeds into the street.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they call it an apron because of that angle, that 45-degree angle that the concrete goes. So I'm about to run into an apron, and across the street coming at me was a young lady on a bike. And we are going to go across, and we're going to probably cross paths here really soon. But just before she got to the concrete, her tire got wedged between the grass and the concrete, and she wiped out on the concrete.
Ooh. Right
in front of me. Okay. And I rushed over to her. Thank God she didn't hit her head, but she hit her body in multiple spots and was bleeding everywhere by the time I got there. And this was a very busy intersection. There was a traffic light there too. Very busy intersection. So I immediately ran to her, and she was sobbing. She was almost, I couldn't understand her. She was so upset. And so I said, it's okay. Everything's going to be okay. I'm here. I'm going to help you. Stopped running, but she was bleeding. So I said, my shirt is not wet yet. Can I give you my shirt? Let's stop the bleeding. She was like, okay. So I take my shirt off. I give it to her. We're taking care of her. We're at this busy intersection, and nobody's stopping. The traffic light's stopping red. People are parked nearly next to us, and nobody's stopping. There's a bike that's upside down on the concrete. This young lady's sitting on the grass with me. She was probably my age, so she was probably in her 30s, I'm guessing at the time. And the one thing I noticed about her was she was completely decked out in pink. She had a pink hat on, pink earrings, pink shirt, pink gloves. It wasn't wintertime. She was completely decked out. And when she finally calmed down, I asked her about her outfit, and she was going to ride later on in a Susan G. Komen breast cancer awareness event later that day. And she just, wiped out. She didn't look anything like she probably did before she fell. So I looked at her bike, and her bike had handlebars all decorated with pink streamers, all through the spokes, pink, all around the frame. Her bike and her body were all decked out in pink, and she had just wiped out. Anyways, about 5 or 6 cycles go through, and finally this white Camry pulled over. I'll never forget. A white Camry pulled over and said, "You guys need some help?" And we were like, "Yes." I did try to stand her up, and she couldn't stand up. She was really in bad shape. She had banged her knees up really bad. And so the person in the Camry said, "Here, I've got some towels in my trunk. They're clean." So we cleaned her up with those. And then the person in the Camry said, "How about, can I take you home?" And she said, "Sure." And I said, I'll take your bike home. Don't worry about it. And so we got her in the car, settled. She calmed down. She was doing good, but she wasn't moving very well. So then I went back to the bike, and the bike was actually in pretty good shape. But here you've got this skinny guy with no shirt on riding a completely decked out pink bike with streamers going by in the busiest city in where I live. I live in Menor, Ohio. It's down Menor Avenue. So I want you to take Nashua or Merrimack or wherever you're from and just take the busiest street where all the stores are and picture yourself with not many clothes on and riding this pink bike. I was riding it back to her house.
Not only that, you're from the area, so people are like, hey, that's Patrick. What's he doing riding a... I don't know what year this was, but maybe they pull out their camera,
Yep.
Taking the photos.
I never saw somebody post, why run when you can... So I took the bike home. She got to her apartment. I left her bike. She thanked me. And I've never seen her since. So it'd be great to run into her someday and just say, that was me and that was you?
Well, you know where she lives, so this one's much easier than the first one. Let's go knock on the door.
Yeah, it was an apartment. So I don't know if she's still there.
All right, we might have to go into the old taxes for that apartment number and find her, but we'll figure it out.
Oh, jeez.
Right.
I'm kidding. We're
Your
not going
stalker capabilities.
We're just going to keep the stalking to Instagram and Facebook only. We're not going to get personal and going in up to people's doors and knocking. Not yet.
Right.
We'll do it with a camera crew.
One of my funnier stories that I think is the funniest, I don't know if I can tell it as funny as it was, but it brought me to tears as Erika did for your Neil show. And I think it was Eric. Was it Katie's show that you were?
Amanda just recently had to take a break. So
this one, have you guys ever run a stair climb race?
No, not yet.
That sounds awful. That sounds terrible. What time?
Yep. Well, add it to your bucket list. You got to try this. Okay. So the first time I did this, again, this is without watches and GPS, and I signed up for it was at a bank. This was in Indiana also, and they were going to run up the stairway from the garage up to the 20th floor. And I didn't quite understand how they were going to do it. So I said, fine, I'll sign up, but I'm going to get there early and figure out what they're doing. So I got there early. I found out that once you arrived, they gave you a starting time. And so basically the clock at the bottom of the stairs was synchronized with the clock. The starting clock at the bottom of the stairs was synchronized with the finish line at the top. Again, this is old school. They probably don't do it this way anymore. And so when you got there, you checked in and you were assigned a starting time. So you got to warm up and stuff and in the garage, but it was pretty cold. And so you were trying to find, this was in the early spring in Indiana. And you wanted to stay warm a little bit. So I thought, well, let me go in the building and I'm going to take the elevator up to the top. Now that I know how the start is going to commence, I want to see how the finish is going to work. So I got up to the top of the elevator and went out of the elevator, and everybody is coughing. I mean, everybody is coughing. And my immediate perception was that the air in that shaft of the stairway is probably dry air from the wintertime, and it's just stale air, and it's really affecting people that everyone is coughing. So I barely left the elevator. I came out and I watched one person finish, and I said, okay, I see how they do it. And then you kind of go through this hallway, and they have a couple of rooms there. And so, but I'm getting out of here because whatever these people have, I don't want it.
Right.
It was that bad. So I get to the bottom. It's my turn. A stair race, at least from my perspective, was pretty hard. You think you're a wonderful runner, well-trained. You get up to about the fourth floor, and all of a sudden now you're grabbing the railing, and you went from every other step without grabbing the railing to grabbing the railing to going every step to walking, just to catch your breath. And so it's pretty hard. It's a short race, obviously, but it's pretty hard. So I get to the top, I finish, and the very first, the way the finish took you, the path that it took you into this room, and the very first thing they had there was a bowl of vegetables, right? They had a lot of good drinks and vegetables up there, but the first thing they had was vegetables. So I grabbed a handful of carrots, the cut carrots, and I bit it, and it scratched my throat, and I started coughing. And I started coughing, and I realized, oh my God, you fell into the trap. And I mean, it scratched my throat so bad, I couldn't stop coughing. And now, not only am I coughing, you know how when you cough real bad, your eyes water, but I am laughing at myself because I'm such an idiot that I fell into this trap of biting into this carrot and it scratched my throat. I am coughing and crying because I'm laughing so hard that I'm going into the corner now, and everybody's coming to me to say, are you okay? And I can't tell them. I'm just shaking my head. I'm okay, because I can't stop coughing and I'm tearing eyed. Oh, it was so funny. I still can't get over how embarrassed I was that I fell right into the trap of everybody else. And now I know why they were coughing. So the lesson learned from that story is get fluids first. Don't grab that vegetable that you think we love, because your throat might be dry, and the last thing you want is to scratch your throat. Oh, I was so embarrassed.
I can't say I've ever had a carrot right after a race of sorts. Not even well, I know bananas are common, but I don't even eat bananas.
I was turned off at vegetables.
A bowl of carrots. It is an interesting choice for post-race food, I have to say.
I am used to bananas. Bananas is what I'm used to.
Yep.
Beer, water, Gatorade.
But there's the fluids, though.
Yep. Okay, so food-wise, fruits, oranges.
Okay.
They usually have like the orange already, quarter oranges.
Well, they had a different orange thing.
Yeah.
Right.
They usually have chips.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
chips is common
too.
Chips could do what?
That would really scratch your throat,
Right.
though, if you just inhaled a chip.
So the lesson learned is fluids first.
Yes.
Doesn't
Fluids
matter the
first.
fluid, though. It could be beer, cold beer. And
Beer's
then a
great.
carrot.
Bananas are good. I agree. Just something soft. Do not take chips, even though you're tempted to.
Ice cream's okay.
That's fair. I like that lesson. That's a good lesson.
Let's see, what else?
Let me ask you a question about the book. How many stories do you think are in the book?
There are 23 stories in the book.
And how do you remember or recall these? Were you just like, it's in your head, it's in your brain? Or when this event happened with the girl on the bike, at some point, do you write that down like a little journal?
Yeah, I had a bulleted journal. I didn't have a lot of the details. I just would have details down from the days when we had running logs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before the advent of Excel and all the charts that I keep now for my running stats. But so yeah, I just kept a running log. So for instance, I'm already in the process of creating Why Run When 2.
No way.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm collecting stories for, what I'm going to talk about next. And now it's in my phone, right? Because you can put it in notes in your phone. So
you said collecting stories. Are these your stories, or now are you collecting stories of others?
That's a good idea. But no, they're mine. But I like what you're suggesting, because
maybe for book number 3.
Yeah. Or just mix it up a little bit, because it might allow book number 2 to come out a little bit sooner. I think it's going to take me years to work on book number 2, because I think with the advent of all the technology and stuff and social media, things happen right away. They're broadcast right away. And then unless it goes viral, it dies.
Right.
I mean, so it's interesting. This was back in the day when you had to put down memories and just jot it down and then remember back to all those thoughts. And that's what you did. That's what I did when I was writing, right? I had to put myself in my shoes again to figure out how to piece together all those details.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thank you. That's I like that advice, Eric.
I think you have more stories for us, but let's take a break. We'll end with some good ones. Let's actually talk about writing a book, because I kind of asked that question. And
that's what I'm actually fascinated in. Like, what does it take to write a book? How did you get like the idea you wanted to do this? How did you even think of publishing it?
Yeah, great question. So, being a business person, I love business. I love learning. I'm curious. I'm a runner. I'm a storyteller. I've been collecting these stories. I always thought to myself, maybe someday I'll do something with these stories. I don't know what. Maybe I'll publish a book about the stories. And finally, it got to the point where I saw an advertisement in the paper, how to self-publish your book, free seminar at the local library.
Oh, cool.
And so all the planets aligned. I've been thinking about it in the background. I'm as busy as anybody else with my job at the time.
But that was your sign, right? It's time.
That was the
It's
sign.
time.
When was this, by the way?
This was 2019.
Okay.
Yep, 2019, probably the spring of 2019. So it was pre-pandemic. We didn't know the pandemic was going to come. So, and I want to give a huge shout out because these were the people that lit this spark, and it's Willie and Rachel Scott. They offered a 3-session free seminars, one a month for 3 months in a row at my local library. And their business model is pretty unique. Their company wants to teach you how to self-publish. They don't want to publish themselves. They already do that.
Mm-hmm.
They already do that themselves, but they want to teach self-publishing so that you can start your own company and do it. And so I signed up, I went to it. I learned so much from them. At one point, Willie pulled me aside when I was asking a question and said, "You're actually going to do this." And I'm like, "Whoa, really?" He said, I can tell by the questions you're asking, you're going to do this. So their motivation was that spark. It really was. And so I took a ton of notes. I learned a lot from them. And I just started writing. The first step in this process, if you want me to talk about that, is,
Yes.
okay, is
Just in case one day we write a book.
Oh boy.
Yes, exactly. And hey, that's a good segue. This is very important because this is the takeaway I'd like your listeners to have. I was able to do this and given this opportunity for free. And that's what I want to do. If any of your listeners ever want to self-publish a book and need any advice, we're going to tell you here soon how you can reach out to me and find me. And I want to offer that advice free because it was given to me free. So I want to reciprocate and I want to pay it forward. So if any of your listeners are experts in anything and you ever said, "I'd like to write a book," whether it's about running or the flux capacitor, because you're an expert at the flux capacitor. So just please reach out and we'll talk to you in a little bit about how to reach me. So I set a goal of writing at least 5 minutes a day. And that might sound ridiculous, but trust me, there's some days where you just don't want to write. And I forced myself. It's like the discipline I had of running, a regular schedule. I said, you're going to write at least 5 minutes a day. That's the first thing you have to do.
So that's just enough to get your creative juices flowing, and your 5 minutes could turn into 10 minutes or 15 or a half an hour, and just kept going until you just couldn't write anymore.
And in 5 minutes, if you don't have it, just put it away and try again tomorrow.
You got it. You guys are both, you've got your finger on the pulse of it. Erika said it perfectly. There were so many times where that 5 minutes turned into 45 minutes because I was having fun reminiscing, right? And now we have computers, so it's easy to type, and so you could put your thoughts together, okay? So you're writing and you're putting all these stories together, if you will. Remember, I had all the stories bulletized.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And then you started to, because I'm a project manager, I put together a project plan. I thought about what's my budget going to be? What am I going to do to start a company? How do I start a company? How do I start an LLC self-publishing company? How do I do that in Ohio? What am I going to name the book? That didn't take too much of a long process, except that I wanted to run it by a number of people. And I put together a 13-month plan. A
Okay.
13-month plan. And why 13 months? It just happened to be what I learned from Willie and Rachel. They didn't tell me to do 13. They just told me these are the things you need to do. And being a professional project manager, I knew how to list all the tasks that were needed.
Okay.
And I had to estimate the time of each of the tasks and created a project, in Microsoft Project, if you're familiar with the software. And so I was actually using a passion of running and a professional side of me that's my project management skill to do what I was learning, and that was self-publishing.
That's
if
the
you will.
perfect blend. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. I broke the project into 3 phases. First phase was writing and editing and proofreading.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second, and I'll talk about each of them here a little bit. The second phase was setting up the business, because there's a lot of business elements of this that I'll talk about. And then the third phase was marketing and distribution. Now you've done it, and now you need to sell
Get
it
it out
if
there.
you will.
Yeah.
Yep. So phase 1 writing, I just told you my secret. I challenged myself 5 minutes a day. Nobody gave me that advice. I just came up with that myself. Editing, people, by the way, I should also put a disclaimer on this.
Mm-hmm.
I was a C English student in high school.
A C English student?
Yeah. I was a very average student in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I got to business, or I got to college, and I became a much better writer. I really experts at email, and how to make them concise and depending on your audience and stuff like that. So I learned along the way. So if you think you're not a good writer, you're probably a better writer than you think, because I was very average. But getting back to the book, so now you need an editor. They taught me that a lot of people who think they're very good writers, you should still get an editor, because they will see things that you don't see. They're trained professionals that know how to technically look at sentence structure. Again, C student with sentence structure was not a good idea. So I had to get an editor. There's a couple of websites you can go to. You can interview editors who want to help you self-publish. And so I ended up with a wonderful young lady from Texas, who actually was my editor. Her name is Andrea Flores. And she did a great job selling her service, and I really endorsed what she was doing. And so I signed up with her, and I found a professional proofreader, a gentleman who does TED Talks. And so through Andrea, and it's just bizarre, the people that I met that helped me with this. A lot of my family helped. So my son, who's down in Cincinnati, for a long time of his career, he was a TV news producer. So the television news producer writes everything. So he is very good and gifted at what you can say on the air and what you can't say on the air. So he helped me. He was called a beta reader. So he read the story to kind of tell me what worked, what didn't work, what was interesting, what was boring. And I did remove a story because he said, Dad, this is just, I told him to be honest with me. And he said, Dad, this is boring. He's not a runner. I wanted somebody who wasn't a runner to read it, because I want non-runners to appreciate it too. Because if you like to laugh at yourself, or you like to laugh at other people, and you want to laugh at me, that's what these stories are about.
Not running specific. That's good.
Yeah. So he was a beta reader. I had a number of family members who were very gifted at the English language. And so they helped me as proofreaders also. And then I had to find a graphic artist, and I found this wonderful, I found her, I've known her for years because she's my daughter's friend, but Carly Mitchell down in Columbus, Ohio, helped me with the cover, the back cover, the spine of the book. She did all the little icons that I have in the book. She did all the typesetting, which is how you organize your paragraphs, left justified, right justified.
Oh man.
Size of the font.
So many elements that I would never, ever have thought of go into making a book.
I liked your cover, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I thought it was a good one. Here it is, Erika.
Oh, definitely. That's awesome.
I was at a book show, and I called Carly after this happened. I was at a book show, and a lady walked up and said, I'm not a runner. I've never been a runner. I'll never be a runner. I don't know a runner, but I love that cover so much. I'm buying your book. She didn't want to know anything about the book. She actually walked up on the spot because of the cover. So kudos to Carly.
Yes.
She created, she gave me, I forget, 12 different concepts, and we narrowed it down, and we just came to what I think is a beautiful, beautiful cover.
Yes.
So that's all part of phase one, if you will. Okay, getting all that together, setting up the business. You got to be careful when you're writing nonfiction because you're using real people, which you can change their names.
Yeah.
There's a disclaimer in the front of the book that the names were changed because you don't have to get everybody's permission. Excuse me, you don't have to get everybody's permission, but if you're using real names or real companies, you just have to be careful. There's a story in there when I started running about Adidas running shoes, and Mike Beeman talking about running shoes just made me smile because I remember those days. So, I reference Adidas, and I ran in the Oregon, the first shoe I ever ran in, and then they looking for the right word. Sorry. Adidas dissolved the line. They took the Oregon away. Well, they brought it back. And if I didn't have my proper research and said they took it away, some obscure person from Adidas, call me out on that and say, well, we didn't take it away. We took it away temporarily, and then we brought it back. So those are little nuances you need to be careful when you're writing nonfiction. So copyright, because everything you put in the book is really what you own. So you want to get a copyright on it. You want to work with somebody to format an ebook version. There's something called an ISBN number on the book. So if you ever look at a book, it's got a barcode on it. You have to go get your ISBN number. Now you get an ISBN number because you want to sell the book, and bookstores use that ISBN number. Libraries use that ISBN number. If you want to distribute it, you need to go out and get those numbers. Again, everything I'm sharing here was taught to me. I knew none of this.
It is incredible the amount of stuff that goes into it. I it's blowing my mind right now. So 13 months though.
13 months, Library of Congress. If you want your getting it in the Library of Congress, created a website. I have a whyrunwhen.com website. So there's a website that talks about my book there. You can't order the book through the website, but you can go to the book and you can write me from there, and you can see a couple of little things that'll make you smile if you go to the website. So those are the bulleted items in phase two, if you will, about the business side of it. I started the LLC, and there's just a lot involved with it.
Yes.
So finally, phase three is the marketing and distribution. Because you're self-publishing, you wear every hat. You're responsible for, okay, now you did it. Now what do you do? How did I got it on Amazon. I got it inside my local Barnes and Noble store.
I saw that picture.
Yeah.
That's a cool moment.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a milestone moment. I'm very grateful. It's all over the internet. You can go to most bookstores, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com. I think I saw it at target.com. It's fascinating just how it's out there. I'm just so thrilled and proud of it. And I look back at it and say to myself, I can't believe I did it. I really can't believe I did it. But I challenged myself because I'm very, like I said, I'm curious. I like to learn new things, and I learned a completely different industry that I knew nothing about. So I hope some of your listeners are interested and want to reach out to me, because I'd love to talk to them one-on-one. It's all for free because I want to pay it forward, like I said.
So I have a question. You laid out your 13-month plan, and how close were you to sticking to it? Were you faster than you thought? Did it take longer than you thought?
Yeah, great question. So I said to myself, I got to come up with a date that I can release this, that I'll always remember, And I looked at the calendar and I said, oh my God, February 29th, 2020, Leap Day. Leap Day, it fit right in there. So I set a goal of February 29th, because that'll be an easy date to remember, because we don't have that happen too often. And I ended up, it was available on Amazon on February 24th.
Wow.
So it officially got released 5 days prior to my original goal. So I was pretty proud of that.
That
is
really outstanding.
Yeah. So
you're not a procrastinator then.
No.
That's where I have some problems, at least in school. I was a little bit of a procrastinator.
No, I once you're into project management and you follow what you do, you tend to stick to it. In fact, it's interesting. Each of the in project management, you tend to end a project in real life and you have lessons learned. Mm-hmm. What's a takeaway from this? What can I do now that I won't repeat in the future? And so I thought I'd put a combination of that in the book. And so at the end of every story, I didn't call it a lesson learned. I called it note to self.
Okay.
All right. So I forget what I said about the stair climb race, but I might have put note to self, never have a carrot after a race or something like that.
Drink first.
Yes, drink first. So I used my project management skills. I also had a lot of fun with the book, guys. In the very beginning, I tried to make it a little bit more interactive. We didn't talk about this, but I am obsessed with music. I'm born and raised in what I consider to be the rock and roll capital of the world in Cleveland, Ohio. I actually worked in that industry when I was young and I was a teenager. I worked at a record and tape distributor. So we distributed to all the record stores in greater Cleveland. And I did that all through high school. I mean, I had the greatest job in high school. And so each of my stories in the book is a song title. And at the very beginning of the book, I put in the intro, look over the song titles and see how many of the artists you can get before you go to the back of the book and you look at the reference page.
Awesome.
So I have a lot of fun with that and naming each of my stories with an actual song title. And here's another little interesting tidbit that I learned while writing a book that I would never thought of. You can use song titles and publish them exactly as is, meaning I didn't have to go to a band or a legal person and say, do I have permission to
use your title?
Use your title. Yeah. So for example, the stair climb is Stairway to Heaven.
Okay.
By Led Zeppelin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can use that. But if I dared to try and use a lyric from the song, that's where your slope starts to get slippery. So it's not impossible, but you know what? Being a self-publisher, I don't need a challenge like that from somebody saying you weren't supposed to use that quote. I own the rights to that quote. I copyrighted that quote. So I didn't need that. But it's a good little lesson learned, too, if anybody's interested. Be very careful about using lyrics, but you can always use song titles.
Good to know. That's an interesting fact for sure.
Instantly, I was thinking about Wayne Campbell in Wayne's World with the guitar, and he goes, "Stairway denied."
Oh, it's great. It's great movies, too.
Oh, I hope I can ask this. So you had a whole team behind you. You had to set up your business. What kind of money are we talking to self-publish your own book?
Right. No, I'm glad you asked. Really, I don't want to hold anything back.
It's
I'm
just
happy.
Curious. Like it just seems like such a big venture. So go ahead.
Yeah. Sure. So I set a budget up of $5,000 based on what I learned in the seminar. Okay, in the seminars, I ended up at I have it right here. $4,837.
Oh, so you got some more to spend now.
Yeah. A little more for marketing or something, right?
Yeah. So in my record-keeping ways, I kept track of every dollar spent.
Wow.
So it was a $5,000 project. Now, I don't think I was cheap about it at all. Mm-hmm. I think you could cut corners. I don't want to say that in a negative way, but I'll bet you could self-publish a book for $2,500 to $3,000.
Okay.
I really do. I think you could. And let me give you examples of how I could save money. I paid Carly good money to do a lot of this custom artwork. This is all custom. right? This is one of a kind. There's spots you can go to on the internet where you can get stock photos and just use that. You're allowed to use that for free, or you might pay, a small fee in order to license it or to use it.
But you're going to lose the personal touch. You have, it's custom work. So that's understandable.
And you know what else? You just raised a really good point, Erica, the personal touch. Somebody out there might be saying, well, why did he self-publish and not go to a publisher? Okay, that's a very common question. And it's very important to know that I could have taken this idea and pitched it to a publishing house. One, it probably would have taken a lot longer.
Yep.
Two, I would have gotten a lot of rejections, right? You get a lot of rejections before finally somebody takes a bite of that hook and says, okay, why don't we do this? But the most important thing is that you lose a lot of control of the book. Meaning, if they didn't like my title, if I pitched this to a company, a publishing company, and they actually wanted it, they could change the title of the book. And yet my heart was set on the title of that book.
Right.
Right. Because they'd be like, no, we don't want to mention smoking.
Right.
They'd be like, no, your title should be Why Run When You Can Drive and Have an E-Cigarette.
Yes.
Drive and vape at the same time.
In today's day and age.
Drive and vape at the same time.
So you wanted to hold on to your creative control.
Exactly. That's what you have is control when you self-publish. So if anybody out there is wondering why do it, it's to keep the control. Now, if you have a story that, is going to sell millions of copies, go for it. You're going to get a lot of help with a lot of resources by trying to pitch that story. Okay. But, I had a goal, guys, of selling 300 books.
Did you hit it?
300 copies. I'm at 221.
So close. Come on, listeners.
Let's do it.
Let's band together.
We're getting there.
See, I'm happy you offered to send us books. And I said, no, I want to buy it.
We'd rather support you.
Because I think it's only $14.99. I'm like, I would rather buy it. You're giving us a couple hours of your time here. It's like, no, I'll buy it. But I didn't want to buy it. I don't know if I can actually do it this way. I thought I could just Venmo you because then you could write something in it versus buying it off of Amazon and giving Amazon a portion. So I'm like, no, when you send us a book later for the giveaway, you can also send us ours that we will pay for.
Yes.
Okay, that's nice. And Eric, you're bringing something up I was going to offer to your listeners, right? Was that you can find my book at Amazon. You can find it barnesandnoble.com. You can get an ebook version of it. If you happen to have, what's it called? Unlimited Kindle Unlimited, I think it's called. It's actually free for people that have Kindle Unlimited accounts.
Okay.
So you can do it. One asterisk I want to put by that because I'm in a little bit of got a bug issue with people that are reading it on a Kindle device. There's a bug and the font is not coming up right. And I'm still working with them on the fix of this. But what's weird is that if you go to the Kindle app, you can read it clearly. It's right there. So, there's, again, these little quirky things you learn about, these little nuances that just come up. But thank you, because I also want to offer anybody, you can go to my website, whyrunwhen.com, and at the bottom of the website, there's a space to write me. And if you're interested in a copy of the book, please write me and I can work with you on Venmo. That's perfectly fine.
I think that's what we'll do. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's awesome, Patrick. I want one more good story, but I think we should end on the story. So let's jump ahead in time here a little bit. Let's ask you our two big questions. So my first question, I know you're a listener to the pod, so I go in there and I dig around and I find a photo on your Instagram, and I found this photo here from, we're going to jump back in the DeLorean and go 88 miles an hour with Doc Brown, 46 years ago to 1976. Here's a picture of a ticket stub.
Oh, great story. Yes. Oh, great selection. Okay. The very first concert I went to was in 1976 when my mom took me and a friend to see Elton John.
Ooh.
Yeah. And my mother was so cool, guys. She took us to the show. We had floor seats, and I think you can see the price of the ticket there. Floor seats, $8.75.
That's
Wait,
right.
Floor seats to Elton John were $8.75.
Yep. I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
correct.
Okay, so now, by the way, my mother was an avid reader, and she took us and she went in the concourse and read because it was too loud. So
What?
bless her. Yeah, she was a fan, but she also was obsessed with reading. So, but she was so cool that she would take us, and me and my buddy had a great time on the floor. Okay, so my friend's name is Jim. Flash forward to, well, I don't know, 2020. Elton John comes to Cleveland.
Mhm.
Get online on Ticketmaster, right? And you go in. I get floor seats
For $875.
for $250.
That's
Jeez.
actually not bad at all. I was
Yeah.
expecting $800 something for that. Wow.
Well, the cost of living in Cleveland isn't as much as it is in the greater Boston area. So, the reason I posted that, the story behind it, and guess what? I went with Jim again.
Oh,
My friend Jim.
awesome.
Yeah. So his nickname is Ripper. And so I went with Ripper, and we went to a couple of Elton John concerts, 20 and 24 years, 44 years apart, same person. And the ticket cost for a floor seat was $875 all the way up to $250. So it's a great story. I'm glad you picked that one out. That's cool.
It's making me reminisce about my first concert.
My
When
fir-
was
Do I
it?
even want to?
my first, I'm guessing she's going to tell me like Hannah Montana or something.
No, I was outside of Hannah Montana range, but I think it was like in 2000. So I was like 14 maybe. And my parents would not let me see. I wanted to go see Matchbox 20 with like, I forget who else was playing, but they're like, no, you can't go see them. They're too old for you. I'm like, but Mom. So they took me and my best friend at the time to see NSYNC at Foxborough Stadium. That was what Gillette was before they tore it down and rebuilt, right?
So
Foxborough?
wait,
it was
the
at
old-
the old stadium.
Yeah, the old Foxborough Stadium.
And my parents drove us down in our minivan, and we wrote "Honk if you love NSYNC" on the back of it, and we got honked at the whole way down. And it was like the greatest day of my life. It was fantastic.
Wow. That's great.
Just dating myself, but I still love NSYNC.
Well,
Not lying.
my first concert would have been 2001, I think, the SNHU Arena, which
Okay.
was called the Verizon Center.
Yep.
Aerosmith opened it up.
Oh wow.
And we went and saw Aerosmith. I am a huge Aerosmith fan from New Hampshire, by the
You guys
way.
are way cooler than me.
And I remember when Steven Tyler was on stage, they typically play, I've seen them 3 times, about 90 minutes. They're just shy of 90 minutes. They played for 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And I remember him saying 2 things. One, you guys want the new shit or the old shit? And the whole place goes, old shit. And then he said something like, everyone really thinks we're from Boston, but we're from fucking New Hampshire.
I think of them as Boston. They're a Boston band. In a trivia contest, I would have said Boston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they had the apartment in Boston, and you can walk by the apartment now, and there'll be a plaque. You know, this is where Aerosmith had
Oh,
their
cool.
little apartment, and they went and did all the shows there. But really, they're kind of from all over. Like some people say Steven Tyler's from New York or from Mass or wherever he was born, but they would come here in the summers, and they still live here in the summers out in Lake Sunapee. They have houses on the lake.
That's right.
And they've recorded some of their more recent albums out on the lake in their little home studio. And yeah, it was their first concert in New Hampshire in like 20 years though, because we never really had a venue.
My dad saw them back when they first started at Holman Stadium. That's a very, very small like baseball stadium that they have
Is
in Nashua. Yeah, so it's very small.
It's
nothing
a
big,
high
but
school
wow.
stadium. So when they were doing like the high school, but
Yeah.
when they became big and they were selling out arenas and football stadiums, we didn't have that here in New Hampshire. So yeah, when we had about a 14,000 seat arena built here for a minor league hockey team, Aerosmith opened it up the second night. Actually, the hockey team opened it up the first night.
That's pretty cool. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
That was my first show. Was that your first concert though, Elton John?
Yeah, my very first one. Yeah.
Erica, you're right. We are much cooler than you.
I know. I'll own up to it. But since we're on the topic of music now, we totally have segued into a weird direction. But now I can ask you my favorite question. So you are a avid listener of the pod, which we thank you for. We think that's so awesome.
Cool.
And you know all about our Spotify playlist. So,
I do.
All right, Patrick, what is your choice for a song to add to our Spotify playlist?
I'm going to give you a song that we're going to have a nice segue into the story.
Oh, great. Even
so
better.
it's one that's in my book, and it just gets me jacked every time. It makes me smile from the first notes till when it ends, and that is Green Day's Basket Case.
Yes, that song is all yours.
I love it. It just inspires me. It's just fun. It makes me smile, whether I'm driving or running or wherever I'm at. It just, and I think we all are a little bit of a basket case with our running habits, you know?
Don't I know it?
She's adding the song right now to the playlist.
It is there.
Cool.
And
I gotta get better about actually posting on Instagram, though. I swear to God, I will get better at it.
I think she does it when she listens to the episode later and she goes, oh yeah, Green Day, I gotta add it to the song. So how does that song lead into this last story? And, you know, it might be the last story of this episode, but I think in about a year's time, year and a half, we got to bring you on for a few extra stories.
Especially when you're releasing your new book.
Book number 2. Yes, that would be awesome.
I'd do it. I would do that and maybe give you some pre-release stories before they're even published. So.
Love it.
So this was, I love the song title, especially as it's tied to this story. So at one time I was the president of our health club at my employer. We, I think, had about 400 members, and something that I was very ambitious with was just making sure that everybody stayed healthy. And it was a subsidized health club where the members put a little bit of skin into it with a small annual fee, and then the company subsidized it, but they actually had a board of employees run it. And so we had an annual meeting, which was called out in our bylaws. And so we would go off site, and I don't think companies will do this anymore, but we would go off site and get kegs of beer and a bunch of runners and people that work out and have a business meeting. And and so we rented a facility, and the membership came. I had to do the wonderful parts of reading about the business and what the plans were for the future and some of the financials for the last year, you know, and everybody's yawning, but everybody came there for the door prizes, right? That's why everybody was there. So it was time for the door prizes. And we called the first person. You had to be present to win. And we were only going to do one prize at a time. We weren't going to keep raffling these things off. So we did first prize. Where is that person? It was a gentleman, and his friend stood up. It's a big crowd, and his friend stood up. He's here somewhere, and we couldn't find him. So finally somebody went outside and found him. He was outside smoking. The winner of the first door prize was outside smoking. The health club door prize.
Oh, God, it's even better. So good.
So I'm like, okay, now I have to save face, right? I'm just hoping there's no executives from the company at this meeting, because the guy comes in and everybody's laughing. Now it's a buzz that he was outside smoking and everybody's giggling. So now the second door prize, true story, second door prize, draw his name, guy stands up. It was another gentleman. It was a gentleman. He gets up, he starts walking, and he drops bottles of liquor on a hardwood floor that shatter and break. So our beer wasn't strong enough. He happened to bring his own little bottles of liquor, and it shatters. And now the whole procession stops because we have to clean it up. Mm-hmm. And so we're into this door prize event, and it's 10 or 15 or 20 minutes. And we've gotten 2 door prizes, and the first winner was a smoker, and the second winner didn't like our beer, so they had to bring stronger liquor. So I felt like a basket case in that scenario, because I didn't want to do or have any water cooler talk on Monday, because I was afraid that management was going to come to me and say, "What the hell are you trying to run here?" So that's why I called that story Basket Case, but I love that song.
I love it.
And that's why, you know, you can use words like the song titles like Basket Case for a story there, or Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah.
I can't let you off the hook. 43 years of running. I think we need a code brown.
Okay.
Ooh.
All right. Yep. It's a code brown nobody's ever heard. So
Oh, it's not even in the book.
Exclusive.
no, it's not in the book. My family doesn't know it, so I'm.
Oh, yes. If they have stuck around this long, they're going to learn something new about their dad.
Oh boy, they're going to be doing this with their hands to their face now. So interesting facts just about Code Brown. First of all, I love your podcast name. I just love it. I got to tell you, in the back of my book, very good.
Thank you.
I applaud it, Eric. Great job. In the back of my book, again, I wrote it before I even found you and before you guys started. I actually, in my thank you section, I thank all the businesses that were out there that saved me from Code Browns. So I actually use that term in my book.
I love it.
So just a little shout out about how much I love the name of your podcast here. So some other fun facts. Believe it or not, this has never happened to me in a race.
Okay,
Knock
that's
on
good.
wood.
That's good.
I have never had. I've had near accidents, but thankfully there was the porta potty, and whew, but I have never had that happen. It's always been in my personal runs, my running around town or whatever. And what's funny is when it happens to me locally, I think somebody on your podcast recently commented like this, like when it happens, I just stop. I don't run anymore because I'll just like walk home now. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to keep it in there. And, and here comes my neighbor, hey, how you doing? They want to talk to me about the lawn care or something. I'm like, no, I got to go. And well, why are you walking? Why are you walking? Oh, I got a pulled muscle. I just got to get home. I just got to get. So I've had simple situations like that. But the one story that I had that was just so embarrassing, and it was a while ago. I was traveling, and I was all the way in the deep South in Oxford, Mississippi. I was at the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, and I was down there on a business trip. I got up early to run from the hotel. I knew I could run on campus. It was summertime, so it was just summer classes. It wasn't full fall session or anything. And I was running, and I just had to go bad. I mean, it was like, what did you eat? I was probably traveling. I ate something different. And what did you eat the night before? Those thoughts are going through my head. And so I had to go, and I'm frantic because I'm in the middle of campus. I checked the door of a building. It's locked because, again, it's summer session. So they probably aren't using this building. And so I ran away from that building, but now I'm sprinting because I don't know where to go, and I didn't want to just let it go. So I found a 3-foot shrub and I squatted next to it in the middle of campus, and I left my impression there.
I don't think it's embarrassing at all. You know what I think? I think now you're just going to be like, next time, it's like, just got to take care of this right now. And you go find the brush.
Yep. And here's, Eric, this is what really brings back a funny memory was when you had your brother on, Alex.
Yes.
And if I remember his story right, he had one in the woods, and then all of a sudden he noticed the guy on the porch.
Yes.
Reading his paper.
Yes.
My biggest fear was there's got to be somebody that just saw me do this. There's got to be somebody.
Right.
But I didn't see them. And if I did, they were just being cool. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that guy just did that right in the middle of this courtyard. So I'm embarrassed still to share that story. I've never shared it before. I did not go to breakfast with my colleagues and share that story that day.
That's not a breakfast story. It's definitely an On the Runs podcast story.
The exclusive Code Brown from Patrick.
Yep. So seriously, a couple of your guests have said there really haven't been that many accidents. I've been very lucky. And, but that one I remember vividly, and I'm still embarrassed by it. But that's life, right?
I hope you put it in book 2. You can change the name of the school or something, or the people. I hope that one's in book 2. That would be something.
Well, all you need
Oh.
to know, Patrick, is you are in very good company because our guests are very, very candid about their
Yes.
stories, and
And
you
we
fit
have
right
a
in.
way. We have a way about having someone tell us a story, and they're like, "No one knows this, or one or two people know this."
It's a gift.
It's
we
a
just get
Yeah,
it out
it
of
is.
people.
Bring it out of us.
That's
So good
right.
job.
Man, you are awesome. I really appreciate you reached out to us. This is really cool for us. People are
Yeah.
starting to reach out to us and find us. Well, actually, thank you to Angela for connecting us.
Right. Yes.
But this was awesome. I really enjoyed this. We've been going for an hour and 36 minutes here since we hit record.
Wow.
I love
Sorry
it.
about that.
No,
I'm
no, it's
winded.
great. Patrick, we just have to thank you one more time for coming on and sharing your wealth of knowledge for the self-publishing industry and just sharing those awesome stories that we can find in your book. So
We will post everything in the
Yep.
show notes. Go to your Spotify and you can click a link. I'll have it there.
thank you, because I was not going to get there.
Or you can also go to his website, whyrunwhen.com.
That's also where you can find him on Instagram at whyrunwhen.
Perfect. Yeah, it's great. Thank you guys very much. Thanks for having me.
It was our
If
pleasure.
If anybody wants any help with self-publishing, please reach out. I'd be happy to give you some one-on-one time. So get you started.
You're the best, man. Really appreciate it. This was a ton of fun for us.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I'm humbled and honored to be with you.
Wow, Patrick. Oh, that was so much fun. We loved hearing those stories and I loved reading about them. So I hope the listeners get their hands on your book really soon. And just the process it took you to make this piece of art, it was well worth it. So thank you for talking to us. We had a blast and we can't wait to hear more from you because I hope that sequel comes out soon.
Now he personally sent you the book himself, right? You didn't buy it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, but he sent you the book himself.
Yes, I reached out to him via Instagram and we did a Venmo exchange and he mailed it right to my house. He wrote such a nice note inside the front cover and he even included a thank you card, which was kind of fun because we had talked about us coming to Ohio and running a race and he sent me a scratch ticket from the Ohio lottery. So if I win something,
way.
I have to go cash it in Ohio. But we're going to wait and we're going to scratch that live on Thursday. So
Yes,
stay tuned to see if I win anything.
absolutely.
But I'll be heading your way soon. Don't worry.
So the three races there was Cincinnati, and that's the one,
Flying Pig was another one.
right? And then the nationwide one, which was in Columbus.
Mhm.
I really want to go to Flying Pig, which I think was Cincinnati. Maybe that was Cleveland. I want to go to Cincinnati because
I think it's Cincinnati. That sounds right to me, but don't quote me.
his son was in Cincinnati, and I remember me saying that's the one I want to go to and hang out on his son's front yard as everyone runs by. So
How cool is that? Yeah, I'll run by and you guys can just sit and have some drinks or something.
right,
Cheer people on.
that'll be absolutely a blast. I can't wait. That will happen on the runs. We'll be hitting the road one day. So, hey, you have some news.
I do. I'm very excited to announce that I have been chosen to be a pro compression ambassador for the second year in a row. You guys know me. I absolutely love these socks. I am wearing their fuzzy compression socks right now because my feet are freezing. But also, we have to say congratulations to Katie Pisani and our friend Anthony, who got in for their first years. So they have been wanting this for a while and it finally came true. So let's give them a round of applause, shall we?
That's right. Here we go. Congratulations, Katie, and congratulations to Anthony. Anthony, by the way, your socks that you posted, those were fire, man.
Literally.
Those were hot socks.
Literally fire socks. But that just goes to show you how cool their socks are. They always have fun patterns. So there's never a dull moment. Always a good outfit.
You are a pro compression ambassador for the second year in a row.
Yes.
You were a Gooders ambassador last year, right?
No, but I want to. I applied again this year.
You did. Okay, that was it. You applied.
I want it. Ooh, I just bought myself another holder for all the sunglasses and I have 50 pairs of those. It is disgusting. but I
You
love them.
sent me a pair of Gooders yesterday, a screenshot of one, and there were toilet Gooders, right?
No. It's called, I forget what the name was, something humble brag, but it has, you know how you can buy the stickers that say like 5K, 10K, like 26.2, like the little number stickers. And one of them, I had to get them just because one of the little stickers said had the runs.
That's right. Had the runs. Yes, that is so
They're very
cool. I'm
fitting.
looking at them now. Had the runs. Man,
Yep.
maybe
Very worth it.
maybe one day there'll be an on the runs edition of Gooder's sunglasses.
How cool. But come on, Gooder, get me on board.
Get her on board, get us on board. Maybe I should apply too. So
Do it.
Well,
I think you have till the 31st. So anybody listening, now's your chance. Or don't, because I want it.
Well, I love that interview with Patrick. That turned out to be fantastic. Some of these interviews go so long where it's like you gotta split this up and make it a two-parter, but his was just at the 90-minute mark, and I was like, this one, it just worked out where the whole thing sounded great in one shot, and that was the way it was going to be. Unlike Angela, we talked the entire time about breast cancer, and then the entire part about her stories, easy to split up. Mike Beeman, easy to split up. Patrick's is all about this book and the stories, and it was fantastic. The stair climb, the lady who crashed her bike, and then the one story that didn't make the book, and he never told anyone else. We were the first to hear it, the On the Runs exclusive. We have a way with some people to get them to tell us some of those stories that they thought they would never tell anyone else.
I think it's you, man.
Oh, I don't know.
You have a way of getting it out of people.
So I'll be curious to hear what his wife and kids think when they hear that story about that Code Brown.
Oh, right.
That was great.
But I have to say, I read the book and it was just such a good read. It was the short little digestible chapters. One of my favorites had to do with the Beta Breakers race that they have out in San Francisco. And his writing is just so relatable and it's just fun. It was a very nice, easy read. So Patrick, I really do hope that you come up with enough material for a sequel because I am an avid reader and I will be picking that up immediately.
And I think when you have that bookshelf in your little recording studio, that book will be right there above your shoulder for everyone to see when we figure this out, when we have designated studios. Unlike me, I'm upstairs, I'm downstairs, I'm hiding over here, I'm in that corner. You seem to have your place there. You got it pretty good. So
I'm working on it. I got to get better lighting. As you can see, I have the little ring light right now, but I'm leaning. I'm like half sitting in a folding chair with my feet on a bed, and I need a desk. I'll work on all that.
Well, this was fantastic. I think we got to go. If you are still listening,
yeah, I got to keep it short and sweet today.
If you guys are still listening, thank you. I know this was a long one, and we really appreciate you. So don't forget, you can follow us on Instagram at On The Runs. You can shoot us an email. Our Gmail is ontherunspod@gmail.com. Look for us soon next week on Patreon. And don't forget about Instagram Live this Thursday, everyone. 8:30, Instagram Live. Erika, I'll see you there.
Don't forget to stretch.
3, 2, 1.
There's this guy in my old office before I switched jobs. He would come to me and he did a NASCAR fantasy league. He'd go, Eric, who should I take this week? Because he smokes so much, his voice is bad, and he has stubs for fingers because he blew them up as a kid. He goes, who should I take this week? And he would grab me by the ear.
Oh, gosh.
And I would tell him, and it was working out really well for him. And then I said, how do I get in on this after a year and a half of and he goes, you want to do it? I'm like, yeah, I want to do it. Well, I won the fucking league, and I won $800.
Whoa!
And they did not invite me back.
Seriously?
Yeah,
You couldn't defend your championship?
they didn't invite me back because I took all their money and everything.